Hey guys, so I just wanted to do a quick first person video tea tasting. So I've got Yunnan Gold today. This is actually, there we go, you can see it. This is actually one of my favorite teas out of basically, yeah, well, one of my favorite teas. And I drink it almost on a daily basis. And I'm just gonna show you how to steep it. So I think one thing I like to do that most people don't do with tea is, of course, it's very important to smell the tea. So always smell your tea. And I think the best way to do this is to get the tea and first breathe into the tea. Put your nose right into the tea, breathe out, sorry, to warm up the leaves, and this extracts all of the smells, and then breathe in, and this is going to give you all of the notes that you wouldn't normally get. And usually people don't actually tell you to do that, which is quite strange. And one other thing that I like to do that most people don't do, that really gives me a sense for a tea, is to get the leaves and like one or two leaves, put it in my mouth and chew it and let it sit in my mouth for a little bit. And that really gives me an understanding of the tea and all of the notes that are in it. And it's not something you really get from smelling the tea. And most of the time it even gives you notes that you wouldn't normally taste or smell from drinking the tea either. So it gives you a far more in-depth look and impression of the tea, and I guess that's what tea drinking is really all about. So I'm going to put in my tea into my Guy 1, and I've got my water at about 90 degrees C. Yeah, it's probably cooled down a little bit, so it's probably at about 85, and I'm just going to pour it in. And basically you want to get the tea to water ratio as low as possible. So basically you want as many tea leaves per per 100 milliliters or whatever it is of water as you can get. So you want to, when you're brewing the Yunnan Gold, you want to let it sit for probably around 45 seconds. I myself actually quite like Yunnan Gold, and black teas in general actually steep for longer. Now this isn't the typical Gongfu style, but I mean that's the way I enjoy it myself. So when you're drinking this tea, one important thing that you should be doing is you should be getting the lid of the Guy 1 and smelling it as you go. And what this is going to do is it's going to give you a real, sense for the tea and understanding, because when you're brewing this tea, as you can see, the lid dips into the water. So you get all of the essential oils coming out from the tea here, building up on the lid. So then smelling the lid, you get all of the notes that you wouldn't normally get to smell. And why is it important? Well, smelling and building up your sort of understanding of flavors is really important in the world of tea, and you can't really, it's the best way to develop your love and appreciation for tea. So for me it's been incredibly important because I don't know if you can see it. There we go. Because a few years ago, I only started getting into tea, and at the time my sister was already very passionate about tea, but so she used to drink things such as By House Silver Needle, which has a very delicate flavour, but at the same time it's very complex. And without developing your palate, you're not going to be able to understand the complexities of the tea. So that's why I think that it's really important to always smell the tea, to sometimes eat one or two of the leaves, and basically drink as much as possible. So I probably steep this for a little bit longer than 45 seconds, and it gives off this nice golden orange liqueur. So I'm going to give it a sip. So this is the first brew, and as expected, it's usually a lot more flowery, and it usually has a lot more of those sort of cocoa notes than the later brews. So what I find is that this tea has main notes of cocoa, but then it also has a lot of maltiness, a slight floweriness to it. So it's probably something more like an acacia honey, but I think that the malty notes of the tea sort of override that, but it does have an underlying floweriness to it. And what I mean by malty is sort of it's quite hard to explain, but if you've ever eaten any sort of wheat or grain, it has that slight roughness to it. And I think that's why it's one of my favourites, is because it is quite a complex tea, and it's very sweet and very very unusual, and of course it's beautiful. So this is actually one of my favourite teas to give as a gift. So zooming in, these are the wet leaves that you can see. This is the first steeping, so they haven't had a proper chance to open up yet. They will do after the second steeping, so I'm going to get that on the way now. One of the reasons I like drinking tea so much is, I know I'm drinking it on my own at the moment, but it's actually a very social activity, and I like to drink tea, talk at the same time, and it creates a sort of atmosphere of peacefulness, being present in a way. And I think a lot of that comes from the Gongfu ceremony, which is what I'm doing now. So guys, I will do a future video of how to properly steep tea using the Gongfu ceremony, but for now, if you just watch and try to learn, that's quite useful. That's the way I did it. It's just watching, because I didn't know that YouTube channels existed for this kind of stuff. So you can see the liqueur. Okay. So we're still on the first steeping. I actually think that this could have used, for my personal preferences, could have used a longer steeping, but I think most people actually prefer shorter steepings. So try it out for yourself, and try to work out what your optimal steeping time is, because that's going to vary a lot on your personal preferences. As you can see, I'm basically gulping this tea because I'm talking at the same time, so not actually recommended. Right, so now we're getting on to the second steeping. What I like to do when I'm drinking tea is to get a real sense and a real understanding of the flavors that go into the tea. You want to drink it in small amounts, so these small Gongfu cups are actually perfect, which most people in the West don't quite understand. And what you do is you get it into your mouth, and you sort of hold it in your mouth, you flutter your tongue and breathe out, through your nose. And because most of our sensory sensors, taste sensors or whatever they are in our nose, you're going to get a real, you're going to get all of those notes. So if you don't do that, you're really not making the most of the tea. So let's quickly get the... Yeah, so this second steeping, we're moving away from those light, flowery cocoa notes into something a lot more malty, and something that I would describe more as a very dark chocolate. So you are getting very cocoa-ish notes, but they're slightly more chocolatey, in my opinion. Let me just give it another whirl. Yeah, so this is definitely a lot more malty in flavour. So the first, the top notes have sort of faded out a little bit, and it's definitely a lot less flowery. And I think that's what I really like about this tea, is that it develops quite a lot and quite quickly as well. But at the same time, once you've developed onto the second, third steeping, it actually stays like that for quite a few steepings. Yeah. So I think one thing that most people don't understand, I mean, you watching this probably may or may not, is that with these Chinese teas, when you brew loose leaf, you can steep your tea a lot more times than if you're using a tea bag or very low quality or low quality loose leaf tea. And that's because it takes time for the leaf to unravel and to extract its flavour, and that's why it's got all of these layers to it, and why you can steep it lots of times. So I think one of the things I hear quite often is like, it's really expensive to buy these kinds of teas. Well, I agree with you, it is quite expensive, but after you consider that, I can get like six steepings out of this, which is going to be quite a few cups of tea, then it really isn't that much more expensive than your typical, tea bag or low quality loose leaf tea, and it's definitely, I can tell you, worth the investment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish this cup, and I'm going to try and get one of these leaves out for you guys to have a look. It's a bit difficult because it's a bit hot and they're not very easy to unravel. Let's get a different one, just because there we go, this has got, so you probably can't see this, so I'm just going to zoom in. So look, you've got a full tea leaf, and what this is it's a tea bud. It's the shoot of a tea plant. It's the youngest part of a tea plant. And so these are all Minkian, which means they're harvested in very early spring. So I think it's March time, which means that because it's cold, the tea plant grows a lot slower than during the summer months or during the later spring months. And so usually it has a higher concentration of flavours and things such as antioxidants. So usually you get a much more complex tea, which is why they are the most treasured. And it's also a case of supply and demand, because you really don't get much of this tea, so that really pushes up the price. So as you can see, the tea leaves have opened up a lot more. It's still not very easy to see, but They're beautiful little buds, and they're by far my favourite. So I am in general a big lover of black teas, but I do like all teas really. So thanks for watching, guys. All I wanted to do was give you a quick introduction to the way that I brew tea, and to Yunnan Gold, and you know, maybe you learned something. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.